Ladies and gentlemen, our next senator.
It is great to be in Mansfield, Ohio. Thank you all for the work you're doing. It's wonderful, and it's happening all across this state. That's the thing that gives me hope. Here in Mansfield, we're going to Worcester. We were just in Dublin. We are, after today, 38 days from Election Day, or just a few days, while people can still register. The registration goes through October the 11th, and early voting begins October the 12th, in a few days. And I believe the next 38 days may be the most important days in the recent history of our country. Now we have over here some very special people. We have retired UAW fellows, people who have worked hard, earned a retirement, and it needs to be secured. And one of the things that makes me most upset about Senator Rob Portman is the fact that when the auto industry was going through that terrible time, when it was on its knees, basically, and Barack Obama and Sherrod Brown and others, and I tried to help in that, urged a rescue of the auto industry. He sent out a press release. And he said the rescue of the auto industry was a lousy deal.
Yep.
A lousy deal. Well, the fact is that this industry has work in, I believe, 80 of Ohio's 88 counties, suppliers to the auto industry. And, you know, a lot of people said, well, they're just trying to rescue the auto industry because they want to save the jobs of all those union people, right?
Here, here.
Well, we do want to save jobs of union people. But some of you may have heard me tell this. Honda is at Marysville and it's not unionized. But on a weekend, during that crisis, I got a call from the officials at Honda asking me if they could come and visit with me at the governor's residence that weekend. They came on a Sunday evening. And they said, you know, Governor, we don't normally advocate for our competitors. But we're here to ask you to do whatever, use whatever influence you have to help Chrysler and GM. Because why? They say their suppliers are our suppliers.
Yep.
And the supply chain was ready to collapse. It was operating on very thin margins. And they said if the supply chain goes down, we are all in trouble.
Yep.
And so it was so vital to save this wonderful industry. And now we're making cars and trucks and people are working, and it was the actions of Barack Obama and Sherrod Brown and the Democrats.
And Ted Strickland.
And, well, thank you. But now we've got to take care of people who are retired.
Yep.
And there are a couple of other things I want to share with you about Rob Portman. Rob Portman, as you know, was George Bush's budget director. And when he was George Bush's budget director, there was an effort on the part of the Bush administration to begin to privatize our Social Security.
Right.
And Rob Portman supported that, was a cheerleader for it, said it was a great idea. We have him on tape. He also voted to turn your Medicare into a voucher program. Let's just give seniors a sum of money and let them go out and negotiate with the big insurance companies. What could possibly go wrong? So, he's not been good for seniors. He's not been good for retirees. And let me say a word about John Kasich, because John Kasich has it either. When I became governor, we securitized the tobacco settlement money, and we put about $4 billion into new schools. Energy efficient schools, every one of them. Ohio has more energy efficient schools now than any state in America. Twice as many as California.
Wow.
Really?
But we also took some of that money and we decided to give seniors a tax cut. Homeowners, a tax cut. Seniors living on fixed income. And so we expanded the homestead exemption. Does anyone get, it was an average tax cut of about $400 per house. And when John Kasich came in, he knew he couldn't take it away from people who were already getting it. But he stopped it for those who were becoming 65 and older thereafter. So in Ohio today, some people get advantages from that expanded homestead exemption and others do not. So anyway, we did cut taxes. We cut taxes in Ohio. We did not raise taxes. The ads are false.
Yeah.
They also said that I spent $250,000 modernizing my bathroom at the governor's residence.
Oh, no. Lordy.
Well, let me tell you a story about that. You know, the ad, I don't know if you've seen the ad that has a gold toilet.
That's dumb.
And it said, it says basically that I took money that should have gone to children and I used it to modernize my bathroom in the governor's residence. Now let me tell you the true story. When I moved into the governor's residence, my bathroom, right outside the bedroom, was a pretty primitive bathroom. Had a little sink about this big, and and so on and so forth. And so the people who look after the residents said, "We need to modernize your bathroom." And I said, "Absolutely not. We are not spending tax dollars in this difficult time on my bathroom." But my bathroom was improved because I went to Lowe's, I bought a can of paint, paid for it myself, and on a Thanksgiving weekend, I painted that bathroom. That's the only thing that was ever done to that bathroom was the coat of paint that I put on there. So why are they saying this on TV? Well, let me tell you. Some of you have been to the governor's residence, haven't you? Would you raise your hand if you've been there? Yeah. Well, there was no public bathrooms. About 20,000 people a year visit the governor's residence. And there were no bathrooms that were, well, there was one, listen, you can visualize this. A bus of senior citizens comes from Cleveland. People unload the bus. There was one small, not handicapped accessible bathroom. There was a line of people waiting to get in. Now, but I didn't do anything about that. Governor Bob Taft, when he was governor, he and Tope, they liked the gardens and all that. He set aside about $750,000 to repair the roof, to put on drain pipes, to other kinds of stuff, and to create public bathrooms, not in the governor's residence, but in the carriage house out there, that are handicapped accessible.
I used it.
So that's what, so they say, I spent, it was money that was allocated by Governor Bob Taft. So anyway, you can't believe everything you see on TV.
In fact, you shouldn't.
But let me just run quickly through some differences between Senator Portman and myself. I mentioned the auto rescue. I mentioned Social Security and Medicare. What about women? He has voted 5 times against pay equity for women.
What the heck?
It's incredible. He has voted for the Ryan budget, which basically cuts taxes for rich people and puts a tax burden on the backs of working people. He's not good for the environment. There's a reason why the Koch brothers, you've heard of the Koch brothers? There's a reason why they like him so much, because he's their lapdog. I don't want to, denigrate lapdogs because they're nice little animals. We got one right. Well, let's just show everybody. apologize. I mean, but the fact is that, let me put it this way. They know that whatever they ask of Rob Portman, he's going to do for them. And so, my friends, let me tell you the situation. They have spent $59 million against me in Ohio. Not just the Coats, but the Coats and their affiliates and their kind. $59 million. $59 million.
Just the Koch brothers?
No, but that's a record. It's never been done in Ohio. I don't know if it's been done in America. So, you know, and you know what they say is, you don't kick a dead dog, and they're still kicking me. You know what that means? I'm still alive.
Right.
And they know it. They know. There's a reason they're continuing these expenditures, because they know that the people of Ohio agree with me on the issues. Student debt. Some of you may be helping a son or daughter or a grandchild go to college. Student debt in America is about $1.3 trillion.
Wow.
The average young person finishing our public colleges and universities in Ohio, 70% of them have an average debt of $30,000. Getting out of college with and many of them have debts of $100,000 and more. And so they're paying high interest, many of them really high interest on that debt. And there have been efforts on the part of people like Senator Warren and Bernie Sanders and others to allow students to refinance their debt at a lower interest rate. Rob Portman has opposed those efforts. So this is the story of Rob Portman. Wealth, power, privilege. He's a member of the club. Anytime he has to make a choice between what's right for Ohioans, Ohio seniors, Ohio retirees, Ohio students, Ohio women, Ohio working people, he always chooses the wrong side. We could talk about trade. We all know what trade has done to Ohio. He voted for NAFTA, I voted against NAFTA. He voted 14 times to give China most favored nation trade status. I voted 14 times against that. He called himself the quarterback for CAFTA, the Central America Free Trade Agreement. He was George Bush's trade representative at a time when the trade imbalance between our country and China exploded by 21%. He voted just last year to give the TPP fast-track authority to the administration. He has been, out of every congressman and senator in Washington, D.C., he has been, I believe, at the very top in his advocacy for these job-killing trade deals. So he's not on the side of working people. He's for the multinationals, these big companies that chase the cheapest wages they can find wherever they have to go. Mexico, and then they go to Vietnam, and then they end up in Bangladesh or someplace where they can exploit the poorest people on the face of God's earth with low wages. And Donald Trump is much like him, although he talks big and bad about trade. When Donald Trump wanted to make an extra dollar on his ties, he chose to make them somewhere else.